You felt it, haven't you? That gnawing doubt that sits heavy in your chest. The whisper that tells you to stop, to turn back, to shrink away from the battle ahead. I know that voice because I've faced it too. We all have. And every single time it appears, you're left with a choice, lie down or rise. But tonight, I want to tell you a story about a man who chose to rise. Not because it was easy, not because he knew victory was certain, but because in the darkest hour, when everything seemed lost, the fire within him burned brighter than the storm around him. His name was Daniel, just an ordinary guy with ordinary problems. But life has a way of testing ordinary people in extraordinary ways. It all started with a routine business trip, a flight over the mountains, nothing unusual. But the weather had other plans. The storm struck without warning. Lightning tore through the sky. The plane rocked violently. Alarms blared. And in those chaotic moments, every passenger on board realized they might not make it home. Panic took over as the aircraft plummeted toward the unforgiving wilderness below. And then, impact. When Daniel opened his eyes, the world was a blur of white snow and twisted metal. The freezing wind cut through his clothes like knives. He called out, but no one answered. Alone, stranded, miles from help in a merciless landscape. Most people would have given up right there. But not Daniel. Something inside him wouldn't let him quit. He could hear that voice, the one that lives inside all of us, whispering, "Get up. Keep moving." But doubt was louder, wasn't it? "You can't survive this," doubt sneered. "You don't have what it takes." Sound familiar? It should. Because whether your storm is survival in the wilderness or fighting for a dream, doubt shows up every time. It tries to convince you that you're not strong enough, not smart enough, not brave enough. But let me tell you what Daniel did next. He got up. Despite the biting cold, despite the loneliness and fear clawing at his heart, he forced himself forward, step by agonizing step. The snow was deep, his body weak, and every fiber of his being begged him to stop. But he didn't. Because sometimes, courage isn't a roar. It's not a triumphant shout from the mountaintop. Sometimes, courage is a whisper that says, just take the next step. And he did. 4 hours. 4 miles. The storm raged on, but Daniel refused to surrender. He stumbled. He fell. But he rose again and again, each time with more determination than before. Let me ask you something. How many times have you fallen? How many times has life knocked you down? And how many times have you thought, maybe I should just stay down this time? But you didn't. You're here. You're fighting. Just like Daniel. And that means something. Night fell, and the cold intensified. He had no shelter, no map, no food. The odds were stacked against him. But there's something about being pushed to the brink. It strips away all pretense, all illusion. What's left is raw willpower. Because survival isn't about perfect conditions. Success isn't about waiting for things to go your way. It's about pushing forward even when the world gives you every reason to quit. Daniel's journey wasn't just about survival. It was about transformation. Every step he took in that frozen wilderness made him stronger. Every breath he drew was a victory over the doubt that tried to defeat him. And when dawn finally broke, the storm subsided, and Daniel stood on the edge of salvation. He knew one thing for certain. He was no longer the man who had crashed into that mountain. And neither will you be the same person when you come through your storm. You see, the battles we fight, the internal and external storms, they shape us. They forge us into something stronger than we were before. But only if we rise. Only if we refuse to let doubt define us. Let me be clear, I'm not saying the road will be easy. It won't. There will be setbacks, failures, and moments where the weight feels unbearable. But that's when you dig deep. That's when you remember this truth. Your strength isn't measured by how few times you fall, but by how many times you rise. So what's your storm? Is it fear? Failure? Loss? Whatever it is, it's not bigger than you. It's not more powerful than the fire burning within you. You were built to endure. You were built to rise. The world will try to tell you otherwise. It will throw challenges your way and whisper in your ear that you don't have what it takes. But remember Daniel. Remember his journey through that storm. He didn't have special powers. He didn't have a guide or a map. He had one thing, unshakable resolve. And so do you. Right now, this very moment, you have a choice to make. Will you lie down? Will you surrender to fear, doubt, or failure? Or will you rise? Because here's the truth, greatness isn't given. It's earned by those who dare to fight for it. By those who stare down the storm and say, I will not be broken. So I ask you, what will your story be? When the storm clears and the dust settles, will you be standing tall, scarred but victorious, knowing that you fought with everything you had? Or will you let doubt win? The answer is yours to write. But I'll tell you this, inside every one of you is a fire waiting to ignite. And when it does, there's no storm strong enough to put it out. So rise, take that first step. Not because it's easy, but because you can. Because you must. Because your storm doesn't define you, your courage does. And when you emerge from that storm, just like Daniel did, you'll realize something profound. You weren't just surviving. You were becoming the person you were always meant to be. You pause, the room heavy with emotion, your final words cutting through the silence. Now, rise.
The end. Like and subscribe for more contents like this.